Massacres, party of six.
Welcome to Story Time with Dad. Today's book is Pequeña the Burro. Ahem. Every weekend, Pequeña's park became a carnival of delights. Families gathered for picnics and celebrations. Merchants traded their colorful wares. Kites danced across the sky. Chapultepec Park had everything: a zoo, lakes, theaters, gardens, a miniature railroad, a bull ring, even a castle. As Pequeña stood beneath the sign, "Burro ride, 6 pesos," she could sometimes hear the sweet song of a mariachi band and the click-click of dancing feet. On weekends, children lined up for a chance to ride the burros. "Ándale, ándale," they squealed, and Pequeña carried them around the corral. But on this particular weekend, something very special happened. Pequeña had been invited to a birthday party. Pequeña was eating breakfast when the girl and her mother stopped by the corral.
"I want the tiny gray one, por favor,"
the girl said, and patted Pequeña's soft muzzle. That's how Pequeña was chosen. She never had gone to a party before. "I'd hate to be in your shoes," Bonita said after the little girl left. Although a circus clown once owned Bonita, she was the gloomiest burro Pequeña had ever met. Sabio, the oldest burro in the corral, said that Bonita could find a storm cloud in the sunniest sky. Bonita shook her head gravely. "Do you realize that little girl is the daughter of Captain Alvarez, the great charro rider?" "Charro rider?" Pequeña asked. "A great horseman. See, poor Pequeña. He'll watch you like a hawk. Be careful," Bonita warned. "Tons of things can go wrong at a party. If a balloon pops and frightens you, you might drop one of the children. Or in the hot sun, you could get tired and faint. Tons and tons." "Oh, be quiet, Bonita," Pequeña said. "Nothing will go wrong." But in spite of Pequeña's brave words, Bonita had planted the seeds of doubt. That morning, Pequeña made her way through the park carrying baskets of flowers for the vendor who had rented her for the day. Passing the zoo, Pequeña watched the elephants. "If I had the broad back of an elephant," she thought, "I would never drop a rider." When she passed the lion cages, Pequeña heard the roar of the king of beasts. "If I had the power of the big cats," Pequeña thought, "I wouldn't jump in a silly balloon." Pequeña passed the long-necked swans. "If I were a swan gliding across a cool lake," Pequeña thought, "I wouldn't faint under the heat of the sun." Later, returning to the corral, Pequeña saw a crowd gathered near the bridle paths. It's a swan. Sleek horses climbed along the path. Proud riders sat ramrod straight in their saddles. They wore tight pants and short jackets. Their spurs jingled and their sombreros bounced in rhythm with the canter. These were the famous Mexican charro riders, practicing for next week's parade marking Dia de la Independencia, the day in 1810 when Father Miguel Hidalgo declared Mexico's independence from Spain. Pequeña had never seen anything so glorious as the charro riders and their high-stepping horses. Right then, Pequeña saw a strange reflection in a window. At first, she didn't know who was that animal. A squat thing with coarse fur. It looked like a cartoon horse. Something created to make people laugh. And then Pequeña recognized the baskets. It was Pequeña's reflection in the glass. Pequeña had never felt so miserable, useless as a broken toy, common as a wash rag. Fancy ribbons would never transform her into something special enough for a birthday party. "Why the long face?" Sabio asked when Pequeña trudged to the corral at siesta time. "I'm a burro," Pequeña said. "Of course you're a burro," Sabio said. I'm only a burro." Sabio's face darkened. "Listen to me, Pequeña," Sabio said. "There's no such thing as only a burro. Who do you think helped build all this? This city, this country? Ever since the first burro set foot on this land 500 years ago, we've labored to build Mexico. We transported settlers to a new world. We hauled bricks. We pulled plows, we brought water to desert cities. So much work, Pequeña began. We hauled gold and silver down steep mountain trails. Gold and silver? Pequeña asked in wonder. See! Sometimes our shoes were forged from gold or silver. We carried so much rich ore that those metals were more plentiful than iron. Your ancestors, Pequeña, wore silver and gold shoes. I didn't know, Sabio. Sabio yawned. There's a lot you don't know, Pequeña. Songs have been written about us, statues created to commemorate our contributions, cities named in our honor. Pequeña, you share the proud heritage of all Mexico. Then he added in a sleepy whisper, there's no such thing, Pequeña, as only a burro. Early Sunday morning, Pequeña was dressed for the party. The corral owner tied satin bows in her mane and braided ribbons through her tail. He hooked a dainty yellow cart to her shoulder harness. At the party, the children swarmed around her. Me first, they shouted. The Alvarez family had roped off a wooden section of the park with streamers. Balloons floated in the trees. Near a huge concrete picnic table dangled an estrella, the classic star-shaped piñata. On the table was a feast. Pequeña had never seen so much food. Cakes, platters of tacos, mounds of fajitas, and pitchers of lemonade. All morning the children rode Pequeña. The littlest ones rode in the cart, while many of the older ones broke on Pequeña's back. When a balloon broke loose and snagged on a limb, Pequeña remembered Bonita's gloomy warnings, but by then it was lunchtime and the children were feeding Pequeña carrots and apples. It was easy to forget gloomy warnings. After lunch, everyone gathered under the piñata. Maria Alvarez was blindfolded. Using a wooden pole, she batted at the star. Higher, Maria, someone called. Maria nicked the red point of the star. To the left. Maria flattened the bright blue point of the star. Down a little. With one fierce blow, Maria smashed the piñata's center. Candy and small toys rained down on the children, who scrambled over the grass and bounded across the picnic table, gathering up prizes. Just then, crack! The table began to collapse. Crumbling concrete sounded like thunder. Finally, broken slabs settled precariously against the pedestal. At that moment, a tiny voice called out, Mama! Papa! It was Maria Alvarez. She was caught inside the rubble. Don't touch it, someone warned. The whole thing may cave in. If we could move this big, heavy piece, someone began. It's too heavy. Pequeña picked up one end of the cart rope. She walked to the concrete debris and dropped the rope. The burro! We'll use the burro, said Captain Alvarez. Pequeña backed up to the broken table. Two people eased a loop of rope around the biggest piece. Senora Alvarez tied the ends of the rope to the harness. Pequeña slowly pressed her weight forward until the rope was taut. She could feel the muscles in her neck swelling against the tremendous resistance of the concrete. Steady, Captain Alvarez guided Pequeña. Pequeña strained until her shoulder muscles burned, her legs ached. But no matter how hard she struggled, the concrete wouldn't budge. A crowd soon gathered. News of the accident had spread through the park. For the first time, Pequeña wavered. All eyes were upon her. All hopes pinned on a little burro. What have I got myself into, she wondered. And then, from somewhere in the crowd, Pequeña thought she heard a familiar voice. There is no such thing as only a burro. Just a little more, Senora Alvarez called. Pequeña pressed on. The heat from the sun and the heat from the effort were nearly suffocating. And then Pequeña felt the rope suddenly go slack. There was a loud crash and Pequeña pitched forward on her knees. Olé! The crowd roared. Pequeña looked around as Captain and Senora Alvarez lifted Maria from the wreckage. The Alvarezes set Maria beside Pequeña. Mi amiga, Maria said, hugging the burro's neck. Senora Alvarez stroked Pequeña's damp fur. Gracias. This deserves more than thanks, Captain Alvarez said. And so, on the day of Mexico's most patriotic fiesta, Pequeña was there. The little burro marched in the Dia de la Independencia parade. And what's more, she led the magnificent column of the charro riders and Captain Alvarez. Along the boulevards of Mexico City, the people shouted with joy, seeing the burro who saved the little girl. Viva Pequeña! Viva el burro! Viva Mexico! Thanks for watching Storytime with Dad. This has been Pequeña, the Burro.
Massacres, party of 6. We'll see you next time. Make sure to press that notification button and subscribe. Bye. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Massacre Party of 6.